Hello everyone and welcome to this 2degrees podcast. I'm Stephen Kennett and today we're going to be talking to Maura Beard of the US Environmental Protection Agency to find out more about the Energy Star Battle of the Buildings competition. I'm here today with Maura Beard, spokesperson for the EPA's Energy Star programme. Hi Maura, good to speak to you today.
It's wonderful to be here, thank you.
Right. Maybe we could begin by just having a quick overview of what the Battle of the Buildings competition is about and why it's being held.
I'm happy to speak about that. Commercial buildings in the United States are responsible for about 20% of our country's energy use and greenhouse gas emissions at a cost of about $100 billion a year. These are the buildings where we work, play, and learn, our grocery stores, our children's schools, the hotels where our in-laws stay when they come to visit. And they add up to a sizable utility bill, and they have an important impact on the environment. So EPA launched the Energy Star National Building Competition as a way to harness the power of America's competitive spirit and to bring the spotlight on this important issue of the role that buildings play in climate change and to help motivate the importance of energy efficiency and what we can all do to save energy. So we have 245 teams from buildings across the country that are going head-to-head to see who can save the most energy and become the nation's biggest energy loser.
That sounds like a really exciting competition. Is the main aim then to get occupiers engaged in the competition to sort of change their behaviours, or are you kind of also looking to carry out improvements to the buildings themselves?
Well, that's the great thing about this competition and the way we've designed it is that everyone can get involved and everyone can make a difference. So we know that the folks who work in the buildings, particularly the engineers and the management team, there's a lot that they can do to make sure the building is running as efficiently as possible. Similar to what we do in our homes, making sure we're only using systems and equipment when necessary, making sure it's properly maintained, and then also, where appropriate, making cost-effective investments in new technology. So we have these teams, and they're energy experts working really hard on the inside of the building. But then the other part of the equation is getting consumers involved. So it is the people who work in the buildings. It's the people who visit museums. It's all of us when we go to do our grocery shopping or check a book out at the library or visit a loved one in the hospital. The steps we take when we are out and about in our community and in these buildings can make a big difference too. So the competition is really aimed at trying to help everyone understand what they can do as individuals and what we can all do collectively for the building itself. And it's amazing what we can do as individuals. So often we forget the simple things like turning off lights, not keeping the heating or cooling on when the building's unoccupied, using controls just like we do at home when we put a timer on the light in the front room when we're not home. Same thing in a building. So there's a lot of simple steps that can make a big difference.
I mean, you kind of mentioned things like turning off lights and the air conditioning, but are there sort of other innovative approaches that you'd like to see being used?
Absolutely. And that, again, is what's so exciting about this competition, is it really encourages us to first look at all those basic steps, things that we sometimes forget to do. But then in order to capture the greatest savings potential, this competition is really inspiring innovation. And we have these teams looking at new lighting technologies. We have them looking at innovative diagnostic tools such as smart meters and infrared cameras. We have them looking at really interesting ways of tracking and reporting. A really interesting technology that was used last year is something called a dashboard, where the dormitory at the University of North Carolina had a dashboard in its lobby, and it was a touch screen, and students could see where their floor was in terms of its current energy use and how it compared to the other floors in the dorm. They could look at the overall picture of the dorm and how their energy use that day compared to the same day before or the same day last year. Another really fun thing that a lot of folks enjoyed seeing when they pulled it, you can look at an hour-by-hour breakdown of energy use. Interestingly, in a dormitory, the peak energy use was at 12 a.m. And the lowest energy use was at 9 a.m. Looks a little bit different than what an office building might show. So there are some really great innovative tools that really support what EPA believes is important, and that's called a whole building approach, which is using the resources available through Energy Star to look at the whole building instead of just individual investments in technologies or upgrades, making sure you look at the whole building and how the systems all interact together.
Great. So you've got to whittle these 245 entries down to a winner. How are you going to decide on the winner?
So what we'll do this summer, because one of the goals of this competition is to help everyone understand that any building, regardless of size, age, geographic location, type of building, everyone can save energy. So what we want to do is look at all of these different building types, and there are 26 different types of buildings in this competition. Everything from an elementary school to a convention center, to a small church, to a large hotel. And what we're trying to show is that all these different types of buildings can use a similar strategic approach to energy efficiency. And so we're going to look at their energy reductions and then combine that to make sure we have a diverse cross-section of different types of buildings. And then we'll select about 10 to 15 finalists in July, and then they'll go head-to-head for the final leg of the competition, sort of like the Final Four of March Madness. And then we will announce the winner in November, and that will be the building from among the group of finalists that reduced its energy use the most.
Just finally, what do you hope the legacy of the competition will be?
Well, as I said before, these buildings use a substantial amount of energy and have an important impact on the environment. So at the end of the day, what we're really hoping to see is a decline in the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that impact the environment, and ultimately a greater demand for energy-efficient buildings. And that would mean that all of us would be encouraged to do our part to help save energy where we work, play, and learn.
That's great. Well, thanks a lot for your time today, Maura.
Thank you very much.
For more, go to 2degreesnetwork.com or follow us on Twitter at 2degreesnetwork.